Welcome to Your Ultimate Life podcast, where we help you break free from mediocrity and create a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy. Get your free video series at yourultimatelife.ca.
Hello and welcome to Your Ultimate Life. I hope you're watching the video. I've got a really beautiful picture behind me because, this is another, AI created picture, and I use that a lot because it creates some fun stuff. And this episode, I titled this Words of Love, Words of Fear. And the last episode, Words of Death and Words of Life, we talked about how powerful words are and that they literally carry creative energy. And I want you to think about something in that context. When you talk to somebody and they say words to you, you also have emotion and other kinds of subtle communications that take place. Now, we have lists for that, right? Body language and facial expressions and even micro expressions and the way your eyes look up left or right. And there are books and courses on how to tell if someone's fibbing, telling the truth, scamming, trying to be too intense, protesting too much. Shakespeare said, "I fear that thou dost protest too much," as an indictment for someone telling the truth, meaning not telling the truth. But there's something besides all that, okay? And you'll know exactly what I'm talking about as I explain it. So people say something, there's the tone of voice. Is it elevated? Is it soft? Is it whisper? Is it shouted? There's the facial expressions. There's the micro expressions and all of the body language, leaning in, leaning back, being disinterested or being intense. All of that stuff goes into it. And we are wildly adept, I was thinking of the right word, crazy good at seeing, absorbing, and deciphering all those. So allowing 100% for all of those things, my contention here is that there's something besides that. And that is that the words carry energy of truth or falsity by themselves. That might come from several places. One, your experience. If you talk to someone a lot and you know that most of or nearly everything they say is exactly right, not exaggerated, clear, focused, and right on target, then you have that pile of experience to add to that, all those other symbols or signals we talked about. On the other hand, if you talk with someone and they say things that are often misleading, or they leave out details, or they say what they think you want to hear, or they outright lie because they're trying to protect themselves or, quote, protect you or some other crap, then that's going to color your thought also. As a side note, isn't it funny? I see these, I'm trying to think of, there was a television series on some years ago, and I must have been pretty good because it lasted 8 seasons, called Castle. And it was about a man named Richard Castle, who was a murderer. He wrote mystery books about murders. And in his research, he wanted to be with a cop. And so he was paired with, accidentally and over great objection, it's a whole story, in the 12th precinct in New York, called Catherine Beckett. Well, I enjoyed that series, and I watched all 8 seasons. It took me a long time because I'm not a binge watcher. But something I noticed a lot in there, and I noticed another series too, and I'm just using that one example. There was regularly situations where either Castle, the author, or Beckett, the policewoman, didn't tell the other the truth. They left stuff out, or they outright lied, especially in the beginning. Now, yes, it's a spoiler, but eventually over the whole 8 years, or 8 seasons, they fall in love, and eventually they get married, and they get shot and killed or nearly killed a whole bunch of times, and all kinds of mysteries unfold, which is what made it an interesting series, at least for me. And the name of it is Castle, if you're interested. I don't remember. I think it's on Disney Plus. And I say often on here, I don't watch much TV, and I don't, so it took me forever to get through the series, but I eventually did. And the reason I'm mentioning it here is because of that honesty thing. There's so many times when they didn't tell the truth. 99%, and I'm only saying 99 because I'm afraid to say 100, but I think 100% of the time, when the truth came out, and it always did, and the person who was lied to was hurt and angry or frustrated or whatever, the offender, the person that told the lie, said, well, I did it to protect you. And when they said that, or some version of that, there was this whole, it would have been so much better to tell the truth. And it happened over and over again in the 8th season. And you say to yourself, you imagine that after once or twice or 3 times or 5 times or 7 times or 9 times, they'd learned that every single time it came out better if they told the truth. But they never did. Maybe toward the very end of the 8th season, I don't know. Yeah, the series isn't the point. The point is, how many times have people lied? How many times have you lied to protect, quote, protect someone, protect their feelings, protect their heart or whatever? Never works. Now, the point of this whole thing is that the energy of a word is separate. A statement is separate than the micro expressions of the face, and the body language, and the tonality. It's a separate thing. Excuse me for yawning. So anyway, it's a completely separate thing. And here's what I mean by that. I want you to think right now of a time where you've been talking to someone and suddenly you knew what they were telling you was not true. There was BS in it. It was not true, either a little or a lot. And you may not have known what the truth was, or you may have suspected what it was, but you just knew for sure there was something not true. That's what I want to talk about. And the opposite of that. Whereas you talked to someone and they weren't yelling or swearing on stacks of Bibles, they were just telling you something. And somewhere in the conversation, you knew that what they were saying was true. Now, that happens. It happens to you, it happens to me, and it happens all the time. There's a couple of things I want to give you here. One is you can develop even more your ability to have that happen, because truth carries its own power that's unrelated to facial expression or tonality or anything else. Truth, it carries power all by itself. The energy of truth is different than the energy of falsehood or the energy of deceit. So that's really important when we talk about how our words create or destroy. Now, the last episode, if you didn't listen to that, it was words of death, words of life, and we talked about how that's true, that negative words to ourselves, we destroy ourselves, our hopes, our dreams, our aspirations, or we feed them and keep them alive until we create words of death, words of life, not just physical death and life, but spiritual death and life. Your goals, death and life. Your aspirations, the difference you want to make in the world, death and life. Today, it's words of love and words of fear. And I gave that long explanation to start with because I want you to remember, because I know you've experienced this, when you can feel the truth or falsity of something without any external corroboration. You just know something is true and not true. That's a powerful skill. So the first thing is you can develop that skill even more than you already have, because we all have it. It's a powerful protection mechanism, but you can also develop it even more. How to develop that isn't the subject of this podcast. But if you'd like to know more about it, reach out and I'll teach you about that, because it's critical to develop and it allows you to create your life. Remember, this whole podcast, now we're nearly at 900, is about how to create your ultimate life, a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy. Well, you can see really easily how much easier it is to develop a powerful, productive, purposeful, prosperous, including cash, and joyful life if you have a highly developed, accurate sense of understanding and recognizing truth the instant it appears, or falsehood the instant it appears. Another thing that's valuable about that very skill is this. If you have a clear and powerful picture of what you are creating for your life, in other words, your not just your goals, but what your whole life is like, this ultimate life thing. If you have a clear and powerful picture of that, the same skill that lets you and I discern truth from falsity allows you to see immediately whether something, some opportunity, or some person is in alignment with that ultimate goal or is out of alignment. What that means is your ability to avoid distraction, your ability to avoid being deceived is massively enhanced. Now think about that. If you knew all the time, or nearly every time, if something was true or false, or if something was in line with what you were aiming at, your purpose, your goals, your prosperity, and your joy, or it wasn't. How easy would it then be to simply bypass the ones that are not in line? So that's another reason why it's so powerful to develop that discernment. And I know you have it already. But the key is it developed as it could be? And are you using it? And are you listening to it? Now, again, listen to the last episode as well as this one. Today, we're going to talk about, last time we talked about the ladder of consciousness. And today we're going to talk a little more about that. And we're going to talk about the power, the creative and destructive power of words of love and words of fear. Now, love isn't the only positive word, and fear isn't the only negative word. But they are opposites. Sometimes people say and think that the opposite of love is hate. And I would argue that the opposite of love is fear. And hate is a byproduct of deep and, horrible, gut-wrenching fear. Hate and the other, anathema and just really powerful words of destruction come from fear. Fear is except death, which is the bottom of the rung of the ladder of consciousness. And again, for a full explanation, go in the other episode, the one just before this one. But the death is at the bottom when there's no consciousness, and the lowest rung on the ladder is fear. And the highest rung is love, pure love and creation, not physical attraction, not even love of parents, not even elevated love, but the purest love, which is the yearning. In scriptures, it's defined as the pure love of Christ, but the pure love of the divine, the desire, the yearning, the motivating desire that moves you and me to go out of our way, to go way out of our way, to add good to the world, to serve, to save, to lift, to bless, and do it with a completely open heart, without expectation of any kind other than the pure love of humanity, the pure love of your brothers and sisters and so forth. Working on that is one of the biggest parts of my personal development journey, and something I work on every single day without fail. Every single day without fail. And that is, it takes a lot of effort, for me at least, may not for someone else, but it's worth it. Now, I've told you before, I have a long morning ritual, 2.5 hours. And because that ritual develops love, and because that ritual develops this discernment, I get double that time back. So the ritual of 2.5 saves me 5 hours. People often say, and I know I repeat this a lot, that, that kind of thing takes time. No, it creates time. Love creates time. Now, that might sound weird, but one way, when people get in a difficult situation, they say, well, necessity is the mother of invention. And that's usually said either because we were forced into a situation where we had to improvise, or because some difficult thing happened and we're in awe that we got through it. Necessity, or that somebody did in a book or a movie or someone we know. Necessity is the mother of invention. But I want to say that is a weak version of the truth. And the real truth is that love is the mother of time. Love is the mother of time, the creative element that creates time. And that might seem peculiar, but I have a story that I will tell you that it's true. It's a client of mine that had a client for several years, working on business, a business client. And, it was great. we did well with this business, turned things around and made some positive progress. And after a couple of years, one day he asked me if I could help his son. And I said, well, I don't know what's up. I knew he had kids, and I also knew he was going through divorce, and there was some problems there. It turns out his son was in college at the time. This was several years ago, and was on the honors program and had been doing really well. But somewhere between his junior and senior year, personal demons had come up, maybe related to the divorce, maybe related to personal issues. I don't know. But he then began experimenting with drugs and became an addict, a heroin addict. And during the same period of time, he had a girlfriend and a child, and it had reached a critical explosion point where he was about to lose everything. So I said, well, does he want help? And he said, oh, badly he wants to change. So make the story shorter, we had a conversation. I met the boy, and we had a conversation, and we talked about what would be required. And you remember from my stories, I was a very, very severe drug addict for a number of years, and been in rehab, residential rehab, that sort of thing. So I had a really good understanding of, at least to a degree, what was going on. And we realized that, the boy had used the morning before we talked on Friday morning, and we talked on a Saturday. So he was barely clean. So we mapped out a plan about how to get him some help, because he said he really wanted to. And it was really, really rigorous, but it required a lot of time together with his dad. And his dad was really busy. His business was busy, and everything was busy, and all kinds of jobs were due. It was in construction and cabinet making and flooring and some other things. And so the amount of time required was simply not available. And the money that he needed to get the rehab that we were thinking about was quite expensive. At the time, it was $25,000, which might be $50,000 today, to do the program they wanted to do. So here's the key. We simply outlined what needed to be done, and they went and did it. The point here is there was no time and no money to create what they created. As the days went by, the money was created. The kid got in rehab. The dad did all that was necessary to spend enormous amounts of time with him. Kid got clean, finished college, graduated, went to grad school, saved the relationship, etc. Yep, all happily ever after. The point of that was this. There was not enough money and time to create that outcome. Yet the power of the love that existed somehow meant all the jobs got delivered, all the money got made, all the business stuff got handled, and the situation, and the rehab, and. So how is that even possible? And the answer is love is the mother of time. Love is the mother of time. Time is the most precious thing we have. And when we give someone time, that's our highest gift. Now, it can depend on how we give it. If we're distracted and we're doing something else, or we're mad and we don't want to be there, it's different. But if we're all in and we're there truly, fully focused with our time, that is the highest gift we can give. Love is the mother of time. Now let's get back to words of love, words of fear. And this is, again, focused on you creating your ultimate life. So what I would like you to do is think about any area right now, physical, spiritual, emotional, and mental. Spiritual is obviously your relationship to larger self or the divine. Physical includes your body and your health. Emotional includes your relationships, your marriage, if you have one, relationship with your kids. Emotional is your own individual mental and emotional health, but it's also all of your relationships. So it's a huge category. And your mental, which is your reasoning, your ability to do the things you need to do, and so forth. I want you to think about what is not ultimate right now. If you think about each measure on 1 to 10, are there any below 5? Are there any areas in your life, and subdivide them, any relationships in your life that are below 5? Are your finances below 5? Go through and think about where are they. I want you to go through and I want you to think about below 7. Maybe they're not 5. Maybe they're better than that. Maybe they're just good enough, you're getting by and things are okay. But deep in your heart, you're yearning because you know more is available. You know more is possible. Maybe you're wondering why the frick you can't have it, why all of your efforts and energy aren't working. Well, we're going to fix that. And there is a solution, and it's real and it works. So now that you've gone through the details of your the physical portion of your life, spiritual, your emotional, which is all your relationships, and your mental, your brain, your work, whatever that is, it's all of the functioning there. And you've pinpointed the 1, 2, 10, 15 areas that are below 7 or below. And in order for what I'm going to describe to work for you, you need to decide how badly do you want to get them to 10, or at least 9. 9 and 10, 9 bang and 10, 9 bang and 10. Now you might think I'm crazy, that nobody can have a life like that. And years ago, I would have agreed with you. I would have said, you're right, nobody can have it. And the reason I would have said so is because I would say the world doesn't work like that. Life isn't like that. There's too much crap. You don't, other people do stuff. The world does stuff, bad luck, bad fortune, sickness you don't control, economy stuff you don't control. You lose your job, the company goes bankrupt, somebody rips you off. All of those things get in the way. There's no way you can have 9 to 10 on every single measurement and every sub-measurement. All of them can't happen. That would have been my language, and maybe it's yours. And maybe it's not that harsh, but kind of. Or maybe it's harsher, I don't know. But here's what I want you to understand, and I'm going to say this slowly because it's true. You can have 9 to 10 on all of them all the time. That does not mean that your body will be perfect. I wear weird contact lenses because my vision without them is 2,500, which is, legally blind, I think, is the 2450 threshold. I wear hearing aids because my hearing is impaired, and they're very strong hearing aids. In the last year, I've developed some arthritis in my right hip and leg, and so sometimes I use a cane. So how can I say that my body, my physical things are 9 to 10? 10. 6 years ago, I died, and my lungs were completely trashed by a superbug that put me in a coma for 17 days, during which time I also flatlined and died and had a divine experience. It's written in one of the books, Meeting God at the Door, Conversations, Choices, and Commitments of a Near-Death Experience, because our conversations took place at a doorway. But anyway, it's left my lungs trashed. So, there's all kinds of physical things that aren't happening. How can I say it's 9 to 10? I'll tell you, and this is going to be the secret to all of them. I choose every single day, without exception, to lean into and to love the body that I have. This is the horse I'm riding. I can look at a different horse and wonder what that would be like. I was very healthy much of my life. My eyes have always been a struggle since I was in first grade. But my body, I was just healthy, rarely got sick, very strong and limber, and did martial arts for a long time. So I know what that feels like, to have a spectacular, healthy body that's in shape and all that jazz. I know that. Yet here am I without that. And I am 10. I love the body I have because I choose it. Here's the secret. It does absolutely nothing to make my day better or to heal my body if I'm angry or frustrated or chafing or yelling at God or, creating anger or frustration. So I choose not to. I take care of it. I do all kinds of exercises and ice baths in the morning and all kinds of stuff to heal and make it better. But I love it as it is every moment. That method is true and works for anything. So I look at my finances and say, I have financial goals. They're big and they're coming, and I feel it and I know it, and I can feel them forming in the conscious unified field. I can feel it. But, not but, and at the same time, I'm thrilled right now. I feel and act like I am the possessor of $1 billion. That's how happy I am with my money and my finances and my business and my coaching practice and the books that I've written and the songs. I'm just stoked because I choose it. My relationships. This one for me has been thorny. Because of my years of addiction and divorces and all that stuff, I have 10 children and some don't talk to me. That used to hurt so bad I couldn't stand it. And that was part of the reason for substances. Today, I love them with every ounce that I have. I reach out to them every time it's appropriate, birthdays and holidays and all that sort of stuff, whether they answer or not. And I know that the next opportunity and move is theirs. And I am patient and I wait and I choose in the meantime to love them more and to love them more furiously and to not let one molecule of unhappiness creep into my life. Mental, I got 30 books I'm in the middle of all the time, but it's the same. And I know there's people way smarter than me. That used to bother me because I got my worth from being smart. I don't. You and I were worth an infinite amount just as we are. Now, I describe to you some of the situations I have, not because, just because I want you to see no matter what's going on, you can use words of love and words of fear to create the life you want. To do what I described, I use words of love every day. I look myself in the mirror and say, I love you. There's a book you could read called Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It. Great book, will serve you. I lived before, years ago, hating myself, berating myself, and being negative all the time, or apathetic and just thinking I'm resigned, this is as good as it gets. Guess what? That's my experience of life every day, all the time. Now, it is only words of love. No more words of fear, words of despair, words of negativity. I just don't do that. And here's a promise I can make to you. There's nothing interesting or special about me except I put a lot of effort into this every day, and I never give up and I never quit. That, if there's anything interesting, it would be that. Here's what I can promise you. I can promise you, if you listen to your language and you use loving, kind words to yourself all the time without exception, when you make mistakes, you just clean it up, fess up, clean it up, recommit, and move forward. If you replace negative thoughts, if you replace self-recrimination, if you forgive others completely and yourself completely, let the energy of negativity be gone out of you, you will be able to experience joy every day. It doesn't matter if it's snowing or if whatever is going on outside, banks or finances or whatever, it doesn't matter. You can be happy because happy is a choice. Read another book called The Happiness Equation by a fellow who was one of the chief high executive vice presidents of Walmart, and he now is a speaker. Really interesting book, The Happiness Equation. I think the guy's name is Neil Pasricha, I think. But anyway, The Happiness Equation is a good book also. I can promise you there are ways to do what I just said. www.yourultimatelife.ca. There's resources there that don't cost money. They will cost effort and time. Go there. Get them. If you're not, then you're telling me you don't really want to live that ultimate life, or you've already got it. If that's true, I want to meet you. I just want to meet you. You know why? I love expanding my circle of acquaintances and friends with people that have taken control of their lives in this powerful way. So I invite you to reach out. If you're not, and you're struggling, or you think I'm full of crap and this can't happen, I invite you to reach out. Because my commitment this year is to help you. 250 million people, but that includes you specifically, to reach a realization, to understand of how great you are, how powerful you are, and then to change the world from your gifts and talents instead of from a place of limitation and lack. I want you to know that I'm here for you. I love you. I see you. You are amazing. You know, every time I meet a new person, I come away thinking, wow, What an amazing person. I sat yesterday at a place where we were waiting for something, and I just was watching people go by and imagining in my mind how amazing each person was, with unseen and unknown gifts and talents. And at the same time, I could see, some were in frustration, some were frantic, some were, they were carrying all this negative emotion. And I can tell you right now, consciously or unconsciously, the words of fear, of recrimination, of negativity, of discouragement, they were all over the place in their hearts and in their bodies because you could see it. And then there's the middle ground, apathy, sort of moving from day to day. Time is the precious resource we can't duplicate and we can't recall. So let's make the most of it. Choose joy, choose words of love, create your life in joy and happiness, no matter what's going on around you. Eliminate words of fear, discouragement, destruction that are in your own heart, because they have power too. If you'll do this, you can have anything you want. If you choose to do that work, you can create and live every day your ultimate life.
Open your heart and this time around, stand.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. We hope that you take it deeply into your heart and decide for yourself how you can create anything you desire. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to this podcast and share it with your friends. As always, we'd love to hear your feedback and topic suggestions. Until tomorrow, this is Your Ultimate Life with host Kellan Fluckiger.
Stand with your heart in the sky and your feet